some extent. Do you have something to show as regards the assignments? Maybe.
Okay, yes. I think we all did the assignments in the group. So if I don't know if anybody wants to show this. I tried the one that was given in the group, the one we had to go to the website to get.
Okay.
Then, okay, that's why I had problems with my images not aligning to the center. But then I tried to do something else. I tried to build a website for my husband's business.
Oh,
I
that's
was
great.
able to actually get the images to center, but then I tried what I tried on the. Okay, let me just. I'm using my phone, so I'm just going to turn my camera so you can see my my laptop. I have issues with my Zoom on my laptop, so I'm connected.
Okay.
Hey.
Okay, Rita, please stop sharing.
Oh, okay. Someone is sharing. Okay, let her go. So as soon as she's done, I'll share mine. Okay.
I think she's done now. Okay.
Okay. All right. Um. Okay.
Oh, fine. Scroll up.
Okay. So these are my images. I was able to get them to center,
Okay.
and I was able to create the form and the footer. I wasn't able to finish for the suit for the footer, but then this is what I did for it. I had an Instagram page and a contact us form.
Okay.
I wasn't able to get the logo. I don't know what's going on with my laptop. In fact, I'm still trying to download the logo on my laptop, but it's so slow. And it's just, I don't know what's going on with it. But this is for the fitness. This is what I was able to do for the fitness.
Okay.
And
Okay.
these are my images. This is where I keep getting.
Oh. Oh.
So
Okay.
I want them to align in the center.
Okay.
So that's everything.
All right. Good job. That's fine. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Well done. Okay. So who else wants to share something before we launch into the class? Maybe you've done part of the assignment too, or there's something you tried out with CSS that you just want us to see.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, yeah, so I actually tried out the assignment.
Okay.
Where I had problem with was the form part. I couldn't centralize, like I couldn't place it in the center, so I just had to stop there. I don't know if there's a way I can. Okay, start video. Okay, so this is it.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I got here, I didn't know the next step, so I just had to stop it.
Okay. Well done. Anybody else before we continue? Anybody else?
Hi everyone. Sorry to be late, but I can share my work if that's okay.
Sorry.
Just a minute. Okay. Um, a favor. What I did for the assignment, I actually created a style sheet because it was really like bothering me just putting everything here on the
Mhm.
index HTML. So I created a separate one. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so let me just see if I share. Okay, so this the page is not exactly like the one that you showed us on Figma, but I had some problems actually on the center. Here I did a lot of things to work this out. It was really hard to make this on the
Okay.
center.
Oh, that's fine.
And I just did like some I just play
Oh,
around with some CSS
oh,
with the button and also like this privacy policy and terms and conditions where let me just get here where it is. Okay, yes, where I put this tag A, so you can click in and go to the privacy policy and terms and conditions.
okay, fine. That's beautiful.
Okay, I'll just stop now.
Well done. We've all really, really done well. Like, it's great that we're able to try those things out, we're able to implement them, fix issues, fix bugs, and all of that. Good job. Okay, so we are going to be continuing from where we stopped in our last class. And what we are going to be doing, from what I'm seeing here, is that we will try and work on that assignment, that Figma prototype. We'll work on it in class now. So everyone will code along as we are doing it. Will get introduced to new concepts, things that seems very hard while you are doing the assignment. We'll fix it in class. So I believe the knowledge of those things will help you create better pages and even faster. Uh Maybe many of us don't understand what that page is actually doing. So I'll quickly explain that. When you want to develop a new, let's say, web application, there are times that coming up with the layout, the structure seems very hard. Thinking about how you want to place the text, where you want to put the button, the layout, and all of that. So most of the time, what we do is to give out that job to the UI UX designers, user interface and user experience designers. So they will come up with a prototype like the one I sent to you for you to use. So in this case, I just created that prototype and then sent that prototype to you as a developer now to create that page. So I'm going to be opening Figma. One of the softwares we use in creating prototypes is Figma. We have Sketch, we have Adobe XD, and all of that. So, but that one was designed on Figma. So I'm going to open Figma now, open that prototype, then we begin to see the prototype and then create our own version. Is that all right?
That's fine. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing my screen now. Aha. Can we all see the prototype?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So I would want us to create a new file for this class, if possible. Okay, okay, don't make it a new folder, but if possible, maybe a new folder, because this is like starting, not afresh, but like just a new file. so that we won't model things up with what we did in the last class. So I'm going to do something like that here. I'm going to save this as my, I'll call it fitness.html. Fitness.html. I will save it in coming. Uh, looking for desktop. Okay, so I'm going to save it here. I will call it fitness.html. Fitness.html. Then I'll have my simple layout title fitness. Just that. Just that to begin with. Also, I'll create a new file and call that fitness.css. Fitness.css. I explained in our last class that there are basically three ways to include CSS in our HTML. Do we still remember all of that?
Yes.
So I mentioned that we could have inline styling, we could have internal style sheets that involves using the style tag, and then we could also have external style sheets. So in the case where our styling has become very many, we're having like 300 lines of codes for style, it won't be very appropriate to keep them here because it will overpopulate this file. So what we do in those cases is to take them out and put them in an external style sheet and then link it with this HTML. So before I go ahead, I want you to follow me by creating these two files, fitness.css and fitness.html. Those two files. Now,
Okay, so instead of .html, it's going to be
.css.
.css. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm coming. Okay, that's done.
Okay. Attempt to link those two files together. We want to link the CSS file with our HTML file. And this is how you do that. We do that using tag, the link tag inside the head. There are a lot of things that can go in the head. We have the title, we have the metadata, and all of that. So we are going to use the link to bring in the CSS file. So to do that, I will just say link. If there isn't Sublime Text, you can say link and hit tab. You type link and then tab. So it's going to create this for you. You type link and then tab. So it's going to create this for you. So I want to specify the CSS file that I'm linking. We can link as many files as possible. But in this case, we have just one. So I'm going to say fitness.css. That's the file I'm trying to link. If I have another one, I'll come here. Maybe I have fitness2. Let me just assume I have fitness2.css. I'll say fitness2.css. As many CSS files as possible, I can still bring them in. But I have just one, and that is fitness.css. You have seen this href attribute before, and that is in anchor tag, I believe. Yeah, in anchor tag, you've seen href that is used to specify the location of that exact resource you are looking for. So in this case, the resource you are looking for is fitness.css file. So put that in our href attribute. Moving on. So let's see if this external style sheet is working for us. So I'm going to create a paragraph, just a paragraph text, and say this is a test paragraph, test paragraph, and attempt to style this with my fitness.css. I believe I don't need to explain this, that I can select that using P, the tag name. I mentioned that there are several ways we can do the selection. We can use tag name, we can use class, we can use ID. In fact, we can combine selectors. Yeah. So I'm using the tag name. I'll just say color red, color red. Let me now open this in browser and see if it will work. And so it is working. It is working. Fine. So let's take this further now. Instead of having this paragraph, what we rather want to create is this little page. Yeah, just this. And in the next few minutes, we should be done with this. Should be done with it. So let's begin. The first thing on that page is this CSS fitness. But before that, we would observe that there is a black background color over everything in this area. So like I explained in the last class, there are some things, there are some elements we can use as containers. Some elements we can use as containers. Things like header, div, section, footer, main, and all of that. So I'm going to be using header here since this is serving like the header part of this page. So I'm going to say bring header as a tag now, header, header. So I can give it an ID and say my container, giving it an ID. Hope we are all together.
Yes.
Okay. And hope I'm not being too fast.
No, it's fine. It's fine for me.
Okay. If I'm being too fast, please quickly point that out so that we can all get it. So we can all get it. Okay, so I was saying that we created the container, and that is header. The header is going to contain every of these things that we have inside. So I want to style that container. I gave it an ID. I'll come inside my external CSS. And to select using ID, we use hash. So I'm going to say hash container. I want to style ID, hash container. I'll give it a background color. That's the first obvious thing around that place. Just give it background color black. And for now, I'll put height, even though I'm still going to remove this later. I'll put height, I'll say 400 px, if that's not too much. Okay, 400 px, not bad, not bad. But let me make this 450. Okay, I have 450 px as the height of this header. There are some white spaces around this that are disturbing it. But we'll come back to that. We'll see what we can do about it. We'll see what we can do about it. But for now, let's move on. So inside this, I want to write this text, CSS fitness. CSS fitness. And that is basically just a paragraph text. Just a paragraph text. I will say CSS fitness. When I open this in my browser, it's not looking like what we're expecting. So I'll do something. I'll style that paragraph. I'll style the paragraph text so I can give it an ID. I can give it an ID to say header text. Say header text. So I'll come here and style my header text. So firstly, I need to change the color to white. Color white. Let's see how that looks. Looking tiny. I will need to increase the font size. And to increase font size, I'll just bring the font size property. All of these are what we've checked in our last class, where we were explaining the syntax. We talked about selector, property, and then value. So when we're explaining text and format, we mentioned that we have a property for increasing font size, and that is font size itself. So we have font size, and the value can be, let me use 16 point. It was in that same class I was explaining that there are several units in CSS. We have PX standing for pixel, we have PT standing for point. We can use inches, we have ER, we have EM, we have REM, we have VW, we have VH, and all of that. We'll still see them as we continue. Anytime we are dealing with font, it is advisable to use PT, even though PX will still work. But if you are dealing with font, use PT. That's point. Point. So let me see if 16 point is okay here. Okay, 16 point seems cool. Seems cool, or is it not? I think it's cool. One other thing, this font family is not seeming like something we really want to use. So we want to change the font family. I explained in the last class that we can change the font family. And to do that, I want to give the body, the whole text, I want to give them the same font family. So I'll just come here, put my style attribute. This is basically me using inline styling. We have an external style sheet. That doesn't stop us from using inline styling. In fact, it doesn't stop us from applying internal style sheets too. But there are rules to it. There's what we call specificity, so that things will not be affected. But in this case, I can just come here and say body, style, and then font family. I want to use, let me see if I have this font on my system, ROBOTO. I don't. So let me just go for Aria. Aria. Yeah. So I have Aria. In this case, this seems a bit better. I also want to make the font thicker. I want to make it thicker. So we have a property which is font weight, the weight of that font. Self-descriptive. So I can say font weight bolder. You can see that it's now thick. So font weight bolder to increase the weight. We also have lighter. I can make it light, very thin. That is font weight. So font weight bolder will cause it to be boldened. Fine. This is eating the hedge. I don't want it to be in that place. So while explaining box model in the last class, we talked about margin, padding, height, width. So here now, I need to apply a padding. I explained that the padding is the space between the border and the content. The space between the border and the content. So I want to give my container this black guy. I want to make it, I want to give it some padding that is between you and your content. Let's have some padding. I'm more particular about the padding on the left here. So I can just call padding left. But I also need some padding at the top. So let me just come here and say padding. So for top, I need maybe like 20 px. For bottom, 0 px. For right, I can still have 0 px. Top, right, bottom, and left. So left, let me put 20 px. This is just in this order, like saying padding, top, right, bottom, and left. And this can be shortened, this can be expressed further by saying padding top, we put the value. Padding right, we put the value, on and on like that. But to now keep it simple, we can just use this syntax saying padding, and we say top, right, bottom, and left. That's 4 values. If I want to make use of 2 values, I can say 20 px and 10 px. In this case, the top and bottom, we use 20 px, while right and left, we use 10 px. So it depends on what you want to do.
Mr. Favor, sorry, which comes first? Top, right, left, and bottom, right?
Yes, top, right, bottom, and left. That's the order.
Okay.
Top,
Bottom and
yes, top, right, bottom, and then it is clockwise. Top right,
Okay.
bottom, then left.
Okay.
Yeah, there are
Thank
really
you.
4 values. You're welcome. So let me see what I have now. Fine. The padding top seems too much here. That thing is too much. So let me reduce it from 20 px to about 10 px. That still seems very much. 5 px. Okay, fine. I think I can manage that. Uh, I could make it zero. Oh no, no, that's too close. 3 px. This is fine. 1 px. Let's see. Okay, great. So CSS fitness, I have the text on that edge, and then I can now proceed to the main content, which is all this little text, all this other text. So let me go back to the page now. I may want to reduce this to 14. Great. So after the paragraph, we have another paragraph here. This text, new way to build a healthy lifestyle. But like I said, the elements that can be used as container. So in my own interest now, I might want to place everything in this area in a different container. All of this first text, this big text, and these buttons. And I want to place them together in another container. And in that case, I can bring in a div or div, div. I mentioned that it's just an element that we're using representing containers. So on its block level, whenever we use div, it's going to occupy that whole space, except we ask it not to. So I can now say inside this div, I want to have a paragraph for that small text. New way to build a healthy lifestyle. New way to build a healthy lifestyle. Lifestyle. This will not be looking good. Oh no, it's not even showing because it's dark color. But we know that with CSS, we can make it beautiful and whatever I want to do. Okay, so let me bring in the second thing to maybe an H1 in this case. H1 that says upgrade your body at CSS fitness. Upgrade your body at CSS fitness. H1. So we'll come back to the buttons. Let's type this first. The text are showing you, but because they are dark in color, they are proving stubborn. So what do? We just style them to have the same color. And since there's a container already, so I can come here and give that container an ID. I can say my container, inner container. So I will come to my CSS and say hashtag inner container. The first thing I want to do is to change the color. Look at something here. I was not exactly coming to the paragraph to give it a color or the H1 to give it a color by itself. I'm changing the color from the parent. This tells us that child element can inherit styles. We call it inherit from the parent. So the parent here is this div, inner container. So if I give it color white, all these children will inherit it. So if I refresh now, they are all white because they are inheriting a property. They are inheriting a property. In fact, there is a value called inherit. So if you want to force an element to inherit a particular property, you can use inherit. But in this case, I'm using white and I can ask the element inside to inherit that color, and now they've inherited it. They have inherited it, but this is not what I want. I still need to do more of styling. I need to place those items at the center, and from the last class I showed us this property text align. So I can say text align center, so they are now at the center. Few more things to go. I want to put some space here, and that could be just some margin top, margin top. So let me give it margin top 50 px. Let's see how that goes. 50 px, is that not too small? 80 px, still small. 100 px, okay, I'll manage that. 100 px, 100 px, 100 px. So now, we want to
Um,
style this
um,
paragraph. Okay.
favor. Please,
Yes.
can you like give us like a minute to catch up, please?
Oh, that's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Oh, share screen. Okay.
Please, can you go to the HTML code?
HTML code. There you
Yes.
go.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you can go on now. Thank you.
Okay. Is anybody needing us to stay a bit to give you some time to catch up so that I can quickly type this before we move on? Anybody?
I'm okay.
Okay. Okay. Rita said, can you stay a bit, please? Okay. We will stay a bit. We'll stay a bit. We'll wait a bit. So while we are waiting for others to quickly type that, let me talk about this. What we want to do with this prototype, oh, after that, the content of this page up to the last part, yeah, it's going to cause us to check some other concepts in CSS. But this is it. Once we understand those things, it will become easy for us to create more pages like this and even better ones and even faster. Faster. Yeah. One of it is, while others are typing that, I will just quickly list this out. One of it is the flex box. The flex box will check float and will check position. The flex box, the concept in CSS, will see float and position. Flex box, float and position. We are going to check position for flexbox and then float. You would notice that there are some unnecessary white space around this black spot. There's unnecessary white space around there. We might want to eliminate them, and one of the ways to do that is to use position. Also, you probably have visited websites where far down at the bottom right, you do see some buttons, maybe like a chat us or uh, go back to top, just button of such nature. They are fixed to that place. Whenever you scroll, those buttons remain there. One of the ways to achieve that is through position. You must have seen pages where when you are scrolling down, the nav bar remains at the top. So whether you scroll up or you scroll to the bottom, the nav bar, the navigation bar now is still at the top. We achieve that using position. So it's a very important concept that we will need to understand. So we have position, an attribute that can fix a particular element. So we can fix it to top, we can fix a button somewhere. We have sticky. We will check them anyway. I just branched there while we are waiting for others.
I think she's done. She's done. She said we can move on.
Okay, okay. All right, so let's continue. Let me remove all of this. This is what we have. It's not looking very good, but okay. We want to style this paragraph and this text at the same time. So I want to show us a new way of selecting, apart from using paragraph, tag name, ID, or uh, class. I want to show us a way of combining them. So instead of coming here to select this P by itself, I can just combine them by saying hash inner container and P. So this basically means if there is any paragraph tag inside the inner container, go and give it color red. I'm not using red here, but I'm just showing you that instead of giving it an ID to come and style in CSS, I'll just select through the parent. The parent has an ID. So if I use this now, this will not affect any other paragraph that is anywhere else. You notice that this paragraph is not affected because we are pointing to this one. So this is another way of selecting. There are several of it, a lot of it, of combining selectors. We will see some of them as we continue with the class. So what I'm saying here is that let's see, great, great, great. How does that look? And I want to say ash 999. Okay, better. So I want to make the font weight bold too. Font weight, I want to make it bold. Okay, good. And then the other text, the H1, I will say inner container and H1. H1. We saying, oh, I meant to say, come back here. Ah. Okay, so I think I want to break this. There's a break here after at. So I want to break that. I want to break that. I would say at, then introduce break. You remember this from your HTML, BR tag, a self-closing tag that can introduce break. So this has
Yeah.
broken the line. Yeah, thank you. This has broken the line. Is that what we need? Yes. We might also want to increase the font size if need be. And that's very simple. We just come here and say we want font size of will 20 points be okay? That's too small. Come on. 3 EM. Oh, how to be 2.5 seems nice. Seems nice. 2.5 EM. EM is just one of the ways to append units. I mentioned that we have PX, we have point, and whenever we are dealing with font, we should use point. And in cases where we want something this big, instead of using big values like 30 points, we just go with EM. It's EM. Okay.
I'm
Uh,
sorry, what does EM means?
what
What does EM means?
It's just a unit like pixel. Uh, I'm not sure that exactly as a full word like we have pixel or point. I can't remember that right now. Yes,
Okay.
but if I remember
But
clearly,
in okay.
yeah.
Please go on. Please go on.
Okay, so um, I said we have EM for font size. We've changed the font size. We now want to bring in those two buttons. Those two buttons. Two buttons.
Mr. Favor, I'm sorry for taking us back. So
Okay.
we shouldn't use PT. We should use EM instead, right?
The reason why I choose to use EMA is because if I'm using PT, I'll be having big values like 30 to match
Oh,
up with that
okay.
EM. Okay, so to now keep things simple, so I just use
Okay.
EM instead.
It's like a lower value of PT.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I want to bring in the buttons now, and of course, we are all senior developers as regards HTML now. So we all know what the button is in HTML and we know how to create that. So I'll just come here and say button. This is the first button. What do we have here? Get started. The button says get started. And we have another button. Another button says learn more. What are we learning? Learn more. Okay, so let's see how those things looks in the browser. Oh, they are not looking like a good button. But with CSS, we make them look good. Let's begin. So I want to style those two buttons. I'll give them an ID each. I'll give them an ID each. So I would say ID equals header BTN, header BTN1 and my header BTN2, header BTN1 and header BTN2. So I'll come here and style header BTN1. There are some practices that makes things easier for us in CSS, but if we are introducing them now, they will seem boring. So that's why I'm just making things explicit like this. As we continue, we'll get to a point where those things will become easy for us to pick up. So let's just flow with it this way. So I gave this header btn1. I could have just given them the same class and then use a kind of selector to differentiate them. But let's just have it this way. Header btn1 and header btn2. So I want to style them now. Firstly, I want to give it some padding. Padding is the distance between the border and the content. So I want to say padding 16px and 32px. That's too big. Let me cut it into half. 8 and 16. Oh, 16px, I mean. Okay, I think this is good now. Padding 8px and 16px. 8px here is standing for, the 8px here is standing for top and bottom, while the 16px is standing for right and left. Right and left. So that's that. The padding and what again? The color is red. What kind of red is that? I don't know. The color is red, and the background color, or simply put, background is none. There is no background there. It's either I say I put black as the background, or I just say none, meaning that there is no background. There's no background. So I've removed the background. There's a kind of red border there. So I can come here to say I have border. The border, in border we have 1px. I'm using this as my border width now. To create a border, the things we need are the width, the style, and the color. The width, the style, and the color. So I can specify them one by one, saying border width is 1px. Border style. Border style is solid. I mentioned this in the last class. And then border color. Border color is red. That's it. But to simplify things, I mentioned that we have what we call shorthand properties. Shorthand properties are properties that brings many other properties into one. So instead of having these three spelled out, I can just bring it and say 1px, that's the width, solid, that's the style, and red, that's the color. Simple, simple. So that remains the same, red border and red text. The second button, let me duplicate the styles. Let me just copy this and bring it right here. Bring it right here. But there is a difference. Okay, that one has white background. So instead of background none, I will say white background, white background, white. Also, uh, the there is a space here. There is a space here. To implement that, I can simply say my first button, give some margin to your right. It's as simple as that. give some margin to your right. So I can say margin right 10px. Just give me some margin to your right, and that's it. Make that 12. Aha, that's it. Just give me some margin to your right. It's as simple as that. I mentioned that CSS is very simple. Everything is just pure English. So whatever we want to do, we just look for what's the property that can get this done for me. So what I needed there was just a space. And I thought, okay, that should be done by a margin. I just need some margin. And then I look for the property. And what's the property? Margin right. And give the value. It's as simple as that. Moving on. I think I want to make this button a bit taller. So let me make this 10px. 10px. Fine. 10px, 10px. This one is thick. I'm not doing. Let's just keep it this way. One other thing that we can do with borders, you might need this, is border radius. This defines how the edges of that border, of that button will be standing. So if I say border radius 10px, that will curve the edges. You see that? To curve the edges. So I have a curved edge. So the value of this border radius will determine how curved those edges would be. If you want to create something like a circle, it is with this border radius. It is still with border radius. So if I have an image now and I want to make it rounded, completely rounded, it is still with border radius. That's just border radius 100%. But there is a condition to it. Okay, let me quickly explain that. A circle, normal circle, simply means the height and width are the same. So if I have an element whose height and width are the same, then I can just say border radius 100%. It will curve it totally. It will be circled. Any element whose height and width are the same, it will be circled. We'll see how that works when we need one. So border radius 5px, just to curve the edges a bit. And the same thing for this one, border radius 5px, just to curve the edges a bit. One last thing before I give us the time to quickly type this, maybe a few minutes to type it out before we move on, because we still have a lot of things to cover. Remember the three things I mentioned, we'll touch them today. Yeah. So there are times that we want to change the cursor. For instance, in this case, I want users to be able to know that when they bring cursor on this thing, they should feel a difference. It shouldn't just be regular, something like this. So I can simulate changing the cursor by using the cursor attribute. So I can say cursor. There are a lot of it. The one I need here is pointer. So when they bring the mouse on it, it will change the cursor from this regular arrow to that hand, indicating that something special is here. So this will tell the user that, of course, this is a button. Aha. So that's cursor. There are a lot of it. We have progress. We have cursor progress that will keep loading as though something is aha. We have cursor north west, northwest size, something like this. This would differ based on operating system. Yes, the way your own system represents cursor will be different from the way my own represent, because our operating system might be different. But that's basically it. We have several cursors that we can use in CSS. You can check every other ones out at your leisure time. So cursor pointer for both of them. When you bring the mouse, it changes the cursor to pointer. We can also add an over effect, but that's basic. I've shown us that one in the last class, just to add over to change the color. So I'll give us few seconds now to quickly implement this. These two buttons, quickly implement that before we move on. So the next thing we are going to be checking now is the position that I explained earlier, that makes it possible for us to position on our elements in the way we want it. So we're going to check position. After then, we continue with this prototype and see flexbox and all of that. So please be fast with this. The next few seconds, maybe like 5 seconds. 5 seconds.
Please, can you go to the CSS?
Yes, yes, okay, that's it.
Sorry. Can you please scroll up a bit? I'm not seeing the first two. Okay, yes. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, Favor, are you there?
Yes, ma, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay. Can we move on now?
Oh, please hold on. Also, center. Okay.
We have to post your assignment on the forum.
You said I didn't get that.
Sorry, we have to post your assignment on the forum.
Okay, okay.
Jessica, are you saying that you have posted it or you will be?
I'm asking if I should do it.
Yes.
Sorry, how do we do that? I've been trying to do that.
Okay. So if you go to resources, you should be able to upload. Let me see if I
Okay.
can show you now. Give me 1 second. Forum.
Okay, while she's checking that, uh, can we quickly move on and do position?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So we want to see another very important concept in HTML. I mean in CSS. Sorry, in CSS.
Favor, I've got it now. Should I just
Okay,
quickly do it?
okay,
Yeah.
ma'am. I will stop sharing.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
What can you see? Corporate partnership.
Female, Techpreneur, and a table.
Okay. So here you have upload material. So if you click on upload material, you can add your stuff here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then we have here called forum. So if you want to ask questions, you can create your own, you can search what somebody's done. You go into your own group. Yeah. You can now type in the contents. In fact, I think this is where you can add your assignments actually within your group. So you can type in HTML. You now add the content of what it is.
That's fine. I think we can create one with the title CSS Fitness, and everybody can reply with you.
Yes.
Because we don't have this menu upload material.
No.
But we have the forum.
Yes. And then you have members where you can see who is there. I think 1 or 2 people have followed me, and you can message the people. You can see everyone in this group in the whole. So one person is following me. So who do I want to follow now? That she has 2 followers, and then you can message them if you want.
Okay.
So if you want Jessica to help you with something, you can just look for her, message her, and send her. Or you have to add her as a friend, and then you can say, "Oh, can you look at what I've done?" So it's easier doing this on this screen than Telegram. Telegram is fine for quick, just quick help me have a look. But other people can actually see what questions someone have asked already, and things can be lost in Telegram. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you, ma.
So
Yeah.
just play with all the headings, activity, and then there's a help button if you need help. Resources is where we share different things. So I'm going to let Favor continue because of time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, fine. So, I was saying we are going to move on and check position now. Position, position. So I want to do something with that. I want us to create a button that will be fixed here to the bottom here. So we are going to do that with position. I'll just say, let me just put the button here and say button, button. Okay, let me just put button top. Yes, just that button is going to distort the page. Is here. So I want to style that now. I want to give it an ID. I'll give it top BTN, top BTN. So I'll come here and say hash top BTN, hash top BTN. To style that, I'll give it height 20 px, or let me just give it padding 16 px. Would that be fine? That's to be 8 px. Okay, good. Padding 8 px. Let me change the background and the border. I'll give it border none, no border. The background color should be black, black background, and the text color should be white, white color. And then if possible, give me a border radius 100%, 100% border radius. Okay, that is looking distorted because the height and width is not the same. But the point here is to position this button here. So this is what position does. We have an attribute called position, an attribute called position. So we have basically 4 types. The first one, not in any particular order now, but one of it is absolute. We have absolute, we have fixed, we have sticky, and we have static. Absolute, fixed, sticky, and static. Absolute, fixed, sticky, and static. They have their own use case. So the one we want to use here is that we want this button to be fixed to a particular area here, that no matter what we put on that page, it will not change the position. That is fixed, as the name implies. What we just want to fix it somewhere. So I'm going to use fixed, position fixed. So it's fixed, but it's fixed to somewhere here, and that's not what we want. We want to give it a particular place. To now specify where we want it to stay, we have 4 other properties that goes with it. That is the top, that's 1, bottom, that's 2, left, that's 3, and right. What does this mean? When we say position fixed, we want to specify where will it stay. Yeah, it is fixed, but where should it be? Where should it be? So when we say top, we are saying how distant should it be from the top. But since what I want to do is more about the bottom, I want to make it be at the bottom. So I can say bottom 0px, be so close to the bottom. So we can see it here now on the bottom left on my screen. So I said bottom, that's the position, bottom 0px, no space to the bottom, so it's hitting the floor. So I can say bottom 10px, that will give it some lifting from the bottom. So I want to make it be at the right. So I'll just come here and say maybe right 10px. So this is basically saying the distance between my fixed button and the right should be 10px, and that's the button here. The button is here already. So if I want it to be at the left, I can just change this to my left and say left 10px, and it's here. So right 10px will take it to the right. So that's position, one of the use case, and that is fixed. So I'm fixing this button to this place. I'm fixing the button to that place. Let me raise it a bit and say go up 30px and then write 30 clicks. Aha. Easier. So it speaks to that place. No matter how much you scroll, that's if you have something to scroll. No matter how much you scroll, it will remain at that place. So let's just put something, maybe like a text that will waste space. I'll just put a text that will waste space. This is just to show us that it is fixed. You don't need to really copy that. I'm just going to create a text that will waste space and allow us to scroll. So I'm scrolling now, and that button is still there. Can you see that? So that means it is fixed. And that is the duty of fixing. That is the function of that position fixed. So wherever I fix it to, that's where it will stay. So I fix it to bottom and at that position, and there we go. So that's about that part. We now want to see how we can use this position to eliminate this unnecessary white space. So I'm going to use one other position. If you are following me, I mentioned that we have 4. We have seen fixed. What are the other ones apart from fixed? What are the
Sticky,
sticky,
absolute, and static.
absolute, and static? Thank
Mr.
you.
Favor, sorry, I have a question about that position button.
Okay, okay.
Does it now without JavaScript, does it work? Like if you click on it, will it go back to the top? If you're
Yes, there's a way
scrolling
we
down,
can do that, even with
it works
HTML.
down, right?
Yes, with HTML we can do that. Should we try it?
Okay, would love for you to try it first. Yeah.
Okay.
All
So
right.
let's quickly
Thank.
do that with HTML. We can do that with HTML. So I will create a paragraph that will help us waste space so that we can have something to scroll. So let me just copy this text and duplicate it very well. So we have a lot of it. Aha. So we want it to be that when we click on this top, we want it to come to this part of the page. Abi now. So it's very simple. It's very simple. What we just do is that we say this button, every time we click you, we want you to go somewhere, and that somewhere is located by an ID. Pay attention. We want it to be that when we click on this button, it takes us to the beginning of the page, and that beginning of the page is basically this header, and the ID of that header is container. So what I'm just going to say is that I will wrap my button in an A tag. You know, we use anchor tag for linking.
Yes.
So I'll just say my href, you are going to, normally href should be when you're linking to another page or when you're linking to a different website. So, but in this case, I want to link to a part of the same page. So what I just do is to bring hash. So we say href equals container, hash container. That's the ID of the place you are going to. So when I scroll down and I click on that button, it will take me to the top. It's as simple as that. When I click on the button, it takes me to the top. When I click on the button, it takes me back to the top. Do you get that?
Okay, but he has to be wrapped in that anchor tag, right?
Yes, it has to be wrapped because it's anchor tag that does the whole linking, that does the navigation.
Okay.
Yeah. Will you type that down, or you've gotten it? We can just move on.
Yes, it's down in my notes.
Okay. So let me just give this an over effect, and over on you, just keep it. But and yeah, solid red and color. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, so back to what we wanted to do. I will remove the P tag now. So you might need that on any of the pages you'll be building henceforth to link, to have the user, to give the user a button here that can take them to the upper part of the page. Because if you have a very long page, it will be difficult for them to scroll, and scroll. Oh God, there is one other thing I would want to show us here. You would notice that when I click on top, the thing just jumped here. It just jumped to that part.
Yes.
Aha. But there are pages where when you click on that button, it doesn't jump that way. You just see it scroll by itself, like instead of jumping. So that behavior is handled by CSS. So I can come here and say in my HTML and in my body, I want the scroll behavior to be smooth. So when I go down and I say top, instead of it to jump, it will scroll by itself. Do you see that? It will scroll by itself back to top. So that's that about that part. As brought in anchor tag for the button, then href to go to a particular place, and then to style the whole document, I'm saying anytime we are scrolling, let it be smooth. So instead of jumping here and there, it's going to smoothly scroll by itself. Let me remove this and see how it looks. So instead of scrolling to just jump. Our scroll behavior is going to walk in slowly. Okay, fine. Let's go back to the real deal. That one is just by the way. That one is just by the way. So we are talking about position, and now we can use that position to remove this unnecessary space. So I said one of the available options in position, we've seen fixed. So to do that, we want to use absolute. Absolute, as the name implies, basically means absolute, like complete, total. So when I put in my container now, I want to say, this guy, you are positioned absolutely. Position absolute. This position, oh, I forgot the other one. Let me just type it here. We have absolute, absolute, fixed, sticky, static, and relative. Relative. Time will not permit us to start explaining all of this one by one because there are theoretical concepts to them, especially as regards absolute and relative. But what we need here is that we want our element here to be absolute. So I just give it position absolute. But the way it actually works is that any element you give position absolute is going to look for the nearest on the tree, the nearest relative container, the nearest relative container to position it with. So by default, this body is the closest relative container, the closest. So we are going to say to the top O, you have 0px, just stick to the top. To the right O, you have 0px, stick to the right. And to the left, you have 0px, stick to the left. So when I come back here, I will see it sticking to all the edges without the unnecessary white space. That's position absolute. So absolute means be absolute in that your container. So there's a container for that element still that we are working on. There's a container on it. So we are saying be absolute. Fill that container. Fill that container. I believe we get that. Or do you have any question? Any question?
No, no question at the moment.
She said no question at the moment. So questions will likely come up later. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Okay, so let's uh take this a bit further now. That's about position. There are other ones, like I've said, we have sticky, we have fixed. So with the knowledge of fixed, we can just fix a navigation bar that when we are scrolling, one particular thing should stay. Yeah, that's that about that. Let's move on. On our prototype now, we have this part. We have this part that will introduce us to another concept in CSS, and that is Flexbox. So let's quickly check that. Let's quickly check that. So after the header, we want to have another section, and that is main. So I'm going to create a main section, just a tag, main. So I'll give it ID main section, ID main section. And inside main section, I have my first paragraph text. That is get a perfect body. Get a perfect body. Get a perfect body. and another paragraph after it, our training classes. Although this could be H3, this could be H3. So let's open this in browser and see what we have. Uh, it's not looking like what we want. So I'm going to style and say hash main section. Hash main section. We want to give it firstly color black. We want to give it padding. Okay, sorry for that. Sorry for that break. The network got distorted before came in. So I was saying that the text is not showing because it's under this header. It's under that header. Let's remove the background color on that container to be very sure about that. Background color black. So we can see that the text is under it. It's not showing, but we need it to show. So what do? What has happened there was that immediately we position this element to be absolute. It has reshaped the way the body interprets our message. So all we just need to do here is to shift the main container. We shift it down. So it's hiding behind this element, but we need to shift it down. So that basically means we gave this one ID 450px. So we can just come here and say you have a margin top of 450px. It's that simple, and this is it. What happened was the main element was hiding behind that header. And that can be frustrating. If you don't know that it's hiding there, you'll be like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? So, but now we've seen that it's under it. We just need to shift it down a bit. And what we did was just to give it margin top 450px. And now it's down here. We can now begin to do our own stuff. So we want to give it some padding, 10%, if that will not be too much, 5%. Okay, cool. 5% is fine. Where's the prototype? Yeah, this is it. 5% is good. So want to style the perfect body. I'll come here and say, let me give this perfect main. Okay, let me say main text. Main text one, main text one, and main text two. Main text one and main text two. Our aim here is to see Flexbox and how it works. So we'll quickly see that now. We'll quickly see that. So I want to style my main text one as main text one. So I would say, firstly, the color is something like this, hash 999. Aha. The font weight 2 is bold. Font weight bold. And then the main section needs to have text align center. Bring all of those things to the center. So they are at the center. Our training classes, and I want to make that H2 to make it bigger. Okay, great. So we have this now. We have this now. We now want to create this element that we are looking at here. And this is where the main work is. Once we are able to position these elements to stay beside each other, once you're able to get this arrangement, you can basically create anything with CSS, any page. In fact, any page. Once you are able to get at least one thing that can make this work this way. So we are going to be using two different methods to make this work. The first one is the flex box, and the second one is the float that I talked about. Flex box and float. So we make those two things, we use them to arrange this to make it work. Once you get that, I repeat, you can create any page because that basically gives you a knowledge of how you can arrange things on your page. So just pay attention as you check Flexbox. Once you get this, you'll be surprised at your next assignment. Yeah, let me put it that way. Your next assignment, you're surprised at what you're able to produce with it. So, yeah, the same thing goes for this area. Once you are able to do this part, these three things, you'll be able to arrange these inputs the way they are standing here. There's nothing special about all of them. Nothing special. You just need to get the property that is responsible for it. So let's quickly do that now. Let's quickly do that. The first thing here is, of course, to create one of it, this yoga and that image. So let me just quickly find an image for yoga that I can just copy the address. Google is taking time to load. Is it my network now? Google, please load. Oh, I go to Bing if you're not responding on time. Bing.com. Yeah, yoga. Bing, if you're not responding on time, I'll go to another search and it's better you respond. Okay. Bing is afraid. So now it has responded. Like what I want to do is just get an image that I can use for that yoga person, this lady. I just need an image to use in that case. I just need an image to use. So I think this is good too. This first one, I'll just copy the image address. It's as simple as that. Just copy the image address and come back to my code to now start building, to start creating it. So I want to create just one of these. And as you can see here, we have an image, a paragraph text, and then another text, just that. So I can create a div to put them together. I can create a div or div to put them together. So I will say div. So I'll say I'll give this ID class item. I'm creating each card for class. We call this something like a card. So I'm creating each item, class item for each one, class item. And inside the class item, the first thing I have is an image. IMG SRC equals the address I just copied. Very simple. I can put an alt text to say yoga person, if that is right. Yoga person. And then a paragraph text here to write yoga. And what again? A paragraph text to write yoga, another paragraph text. Let me just give this small to write trained by Jessica. Wow. Trained by Jessica. So as you can see, Jessica is kind of bolded here. So from our knowledge of HTML, we can bring in an inline tag B. Hope I'm not being too fast.
Sorry, you used small elements now. Sorry, what kind of element? Is that a paragraph element too?
It's just a tag in HTML to write a small text. A small text. Look at it here. That small text, you can see that it's smaller than a regular paragraph.
Oh, okay.
Smaller than a regular paragraph. Yeah, just write a small text. Yes. So I'm creating each of them now. So I have this. div class item, an image, a paragraph, and then a small text inside it. So let's now go to our CSS to give some beauty to it. So hash class item, the class item itself has a border 1px solid black. The border is not looking good, but oh, look at that, very white. We'll fix that. We are coming to it. But our main aim here is to align this first. So I want to do something here. This paragraph needs to be bolded. So I can combine my selector and say the class item, the paragraph inside class item should have font weight of bold. Font weight bold. So it's bold now. And then the small text hash class item small should have gray, color gray. I'm not sure I've mentioned this, that for all this margin and all of that we're using, we can have a negative value. So I can give this a negative value and say minus 10px to make that text shift up a bit, minus 5px to make it shift up a bit, minus 3px. So that basically just, instead of giving it a distance, it makes it closer, make it closer. So that's margin bottom minus a negative value now. Okay, so that's that. I'm not sure I even need it. Let me just minus 0.5px. Okay, good. So I don't want this div to be this fat. No, I don't want it. I want it to be just here, just here. So I can give that item, I can say your width is just 33%, just as an example now, 33%, if that's not still too wide, 20%, okay, 20%, just that's all I need, 20%. But the image is not filling the div. So I can go to that image and style it inline. I will say style, your weight is 100%. So it's not filling it. Style, weight, 100%, and it's not filling it. Without that weight, 100%, the image is not filling the box. So I want it to fill the box. I'll just put weight 100%, and that is it. Filling the place already. This is not all. There is a space here for this text that we need to implement instead of having them at the edge like that. We can just come here for both text and put a padding 5%. Yeah, so the same thing for this, padding 5%. Good. So we can give this padding bottom. This basically means, I said padding is the distance between the border and the content. So padding bottom simply means the space between the border at the bottom side of that container and the content. So just to have some space here, I have it already. And I have it already. 999. So I have this now, one of it, and this seems nice enough. Yoga, uh, yoga trained by Jessica, just a copy. Hey, oh, I meant to put this inside main. I meant to put it inside main because my main is the one representing that whole section, that whole part inside main. Aha. So this is what I have. This is what I have. It's as simple as that. I just created a div, give it an ID, class item, put an image, put a paragraph text, and a small text. Very simple. Very simple. So this one is now aligning to the center because it's inheriting a class. So I want to override that by saying text align left. So text it to the left. Text it to the left. Text it to the left. Okay, so We are not done. We want to have like 3 copies of this, and this is where the issue is. So imagine I copy this class item. I want to have like 3 of it. So I say Control C, Control V to duplicate that. We'll be surprised at what we are going to see here. Instead of having them on the same place, they are lining up on a single line. And that's not what we want. They are lining up on a single line, and that's not what we want. We have mentioned that there are 2 kinds of elements. The block level element that does not allow anything else to stay with them, and the inline element. So div is a block level element. It will not allow us to place anything beside it. But with CSS, we can maneuver over that. We can override that. So let's quickly do that now with CSS. And one of the things we are going to be using is Flexbox. Flexbox. I'll comment that. Flexbox. We want to use Flex to arrange this with 3 simple properties. It will fix it. But before we bring in that property, we might want to give them a container too. So we can just call this ID class container to mean that all of these yoga classes, so we want to place them in the same container. All our yoga classes, we want to place them in the same container, ID class container. So I want to have 3 of them. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Aha. So they're in the same container, but we've not done any CSS with that container. I gave it class container as ID. So I'll go to my CSS and say hash class container. Class container. Please follow me. I just placed all those class items, each of them that we've styled already. We have styled each item to look good already. So, but they are lining up. Well, I placed them inside the same container. And this is that container. I gave it ID class container. I now want to style that container to arrange the content. So I'll just come here and say display. You see this display attribute, a lot of things we can achieve with it. One of it is to hide something. So if I say display none, what I'm saying is go and hide that thing. You can see that those classes are not showing anymore. Display none, just hide them, don't let them show. Display none. We have display block, let them show. Display block, display block. So I can use display block to turn an inline element to a block level element, but that's by the way, display. What we now want to do with this display is to implement flex. I will just say display flex. So when I come back here, everything is now behaving as a flex. You can see that properly arranged on the same line. None of them is breaking. Mind you, we've given each of them a particular width. We said it should be 20%. That's the width we gave it. So it's giving each of them 20% and it's bringing them together with just this display flex. So with display flex, everything are lining up. We now need to give them a space. We need to space them. I will just bring in a new property, and that is justify content. How do I want to justify the content? We have space around, create some space around them. We have space between, create some space between them. Space around and space between. Space around will give the same level of space to every of the part, the same amount of space. So in this case, all we need is space around. So you can see that spaced them properly. That's very simple. Just the container, just the container. We gave it flex, display flex, and for your content, justify them. For your content, justify them. And we have this. So if you struggled with CSS to create this layout in your assignment, this has introduced you to a better way to handle that. And in just 2 properties, you are done arranging them. It's as simple as that. As simple as that. Thank you, Jessica. It's as simple as that. So now we want to use another means to implement this. But before we do that, I want you to type this first. I want you to type this. Just quickly type it and see how it works on your own end. Flexbox. There are many other properties that goes into Flexbox. We have the arrangement, the flex direction. I can use flex direction to reverse them. I can say flex direction column reverse just to arrange them linearly now. I can say flex direction row, a lot of other properties. But to keep things simple, we will still develop them as we continue with assignment and all of that. So let's just keep it this simple. Flex direction, justify content, space, around. Quickly type that. I'll show us float and we'll try to find a place to round it up, to wrap it up today. Can we move on now?
Yes.
Please hold on a bit.
All right, all right.
Um, Okay, yes, we can, please.
Okay, good. So the last thing we want to check here is it the last thing? Okay. One of the last thing I want to check is float. Is float. So I want to show us where float is needed. Like an example of place, excuse me, an example of place where we use float. Of course, what we want to achieve is just a way of positioning our stuff. So in this case, we use flex to achieve this. I will now show you an example. Uh, Let me just do this way. Landing page, UI. Google is refusing to load. Okay. Okay, fine. This is loading already. The next few minutes will be done. Aha, still loading. Why that is loading? You see, CSS is a very wide concept. Very wide. Very wide. And because it is wide, it is very easy to get lost at some point if the basics are not well understood. Sorry, my network. Aha. So I was saying what we are going to get from here now will go a long way to help us create any kind of page we want to do and even learn even the animation on our own if we are unable to touch it in class. So I want to show us float. You see this part. Let's ignore this navigation bar. Of course, it's very simple to create too. You might have to think about how to do that. Yes, I will task you with that, or I show you everything about it. But the part I want to show us is this accelerating startup text and all of that. We can see two things here. This part, um, this part that has accelerating startups and all of this, and then the second part that has the image. This part that has this, and the second part that has the image. Normally, you know that the div will not allow anything else to stay on the same line with it. But with float, we can allow one to float to the left and the other one to float to the right. That's the essence of floating. We can float block level elements and make them allow any other thing to stay with them. So I'm going to use float to achieve this same thing, but I prefer to use a different use case. So I'm going to be very quickly creating this, just this part. We're going to be creating something like this to implement float. So let's quickly do that now. Maybe we can still check this thing to this transform scale and all of that. But let's quickly create this with our CSS. So I'll go here. I want to create this section. So I'm going to give it, let me create a new section for that before get a perfect body and other stories. I'll create a section, a new tag, section, a new tag, section. So inside the section, I want to have two different things. The first one is a div for the text. I'll, of course, give the section an ID, let's call it accelerate section. That's too long, but the accelerate section. So the first div would be, I'll give it ID ACC text. And the second div will be ACC image. ID ACC text and ID ACC image. So we have everything we need to implement this now. So let's now continue. ACC text, the first thing here is the accelerating, that big text. Accelerating, accelerating, and then a break tag, startups, accelerating startups. After the H1, we have a paragraph that has empower dot innovate dot ignite, empowered dot innovate dot ignite. And then the image, let me just see if I can copy the address of that image. Unfortunately, I'm unable to copy the rest of the image. So let's just go online and pick an image to use in that case. Let's just pick an image. Whenever you need such illustrations, you need illustrations like this, you can go to ondraw.co. Ondraw.co. I'll drop that in the chat box. Ondraw. HTTPS. Ondraw.co. Ondraw.co. So what happens here is that I want to browse for some images. So I just click on browse now, and then I want to search for an image. I'll just come here, click on search, and then type what I want to search. I want to search computer. Okay, let me just search computer. Yes, computer. Computer. Let me pick a red color. This color. Computer. I'm just going to pick any image, of course. So let me pick this one. This one. This one in particular. So I'll download the PNG. download the PNG, downloading that image already. I'll save it in the folder that I'm working with. Download it and save it in the folder that I'm working with. I'll give it name computer.png. Computer.png. Fine. So going back to my HTML now, I'll just bring that image here. Image src equals computer.png because I've downloaded the image and I've put it here. So let me open this in browser and see what I have. We'll see our no, this is not what we want. Our image is not looking fine and all of that. But with CSS, we'll make this better. So let's go. Let's quickly do that. So the first thing is that I gave this ID accelerate section. Mind you, the main aim where we are checking this is to check float. How we can attempt to float element to left or to right. Because you see, I have two sections, the AC text. If I style this and give it background color red, and this one background color blue, we'll see why it's not allowing it. They are all covering the whole span. You see that? That red is covering the whole space, so the image does not have a place to stay. So we will now cause them to do something for us. So I want to style accelerate section. That's that. I want to style my ACC text, and I would also style my ACC image. So the first thing I want to style here is the accelerating itself. Firstly, I want to make it align left. I don't want them to align to the center. So I'll say text align left. They are now at the left, but we're not stopping there. We're not stopping there. There are other things to do. We want that accelerating, that's the H1 now. Our ACC text H1, we want the font weight to be light or lighter, if possible, is lighter. And we want to increase the font size. We want to use like 3 EM. We are not there yet, but we are just styling our thing small, little by little. Accelerating. Oh, it needs to be bigger, really bigger. So let me like 4 EM. Fine. 4 EM. This text, empower, ignite, and this needs to be small. Yeah, needs to be small. The startups here, don't worry if you are lost or confused about a few things around there. Just go back and watch the video. I'm trying to rush this so that we can achieve something without float. So just go back, watch the video, review it, or you type as I'm typing. So accelerating startups. This text, I want to make it come closer. So I'll give this margin bottom a negative value. Bring it up for me. Bring it up for me. Make it come closer. Minus 30 px. Make it come closer. Just make it come. Oh, I meant to put that here. Sorry. In the H1. Okay, so it's now closer to it. All right. The second part, and that's the ACC image. I want to float it to a side. So the ACC text itself, this OD, I will say float left. I want to float it to the left side, and you are having 50% width. I'm cutting them into half. So float left. So it's floating to the left now, but I need to float the second thing, which is the ACC image. I'll just come here and say float right. You are having width of 50% to 50%. So it's floating to the left, but something is happening. After floating them, every other thing are following it. So this is the defect. Every time you float, we need to clear the floating. So all we do to clear the float is to just bring something here that could clear the float. I perceive I'm rushing this, but don't worry, it's just so that we could get something to do here. And so I'll just say clear, just clear that float, clear the flotation. We are floating in this section. So because we have floated things, all these ones that we have done before, they are also floating with them. We don't want that. So we are clearing the float before every other thing.
Mr. Favor,
Yes, ma.
how are we getting on?
Ma?
How are we getting on? The data team are starting in 6 minutes.
6 minutes.
So
Okay, we'll
where
start
are
this in
we? Are we nearly wrapping up?
Yes, yes.
Because I need to let those guys in. So sorry to stop the flow. At least before we wrap up, we need to tell them the next steps and what we're going to continue with next week. But
Okay,
we need
okay.
to finish on the dot, if not, in fact, before 5, so I can get them to get started. Yeah,
All right, ma.
thank
Okay, ma.
you.
Yes, ma.
Sorry about that, guys.
Okay, so the assignment will be dropped on the group, and this video, I believe, will be compiled and sent to us. The last thing we are checking here is float, and that is it already. We've floated this to the left and the other thing to the right. So what we did basically was just the ACC text floats left and the other one floats right. That's the image, float right. So that's floating. We floated it to the left, floated that one to the right, and we cleared it. So I'm going to send an assignment on the group that will cause us to implement these things that we've learned, including position, flexbox, and float. Those things are enough for us to build any page. They're enough for us to build any page. So the assignment will be dropped, don't worry, and the video will be available for your review if at all there is something you didn't get here. And also on the forum and on the Telegram group, we'll be responding to questions throughout this week. You can drop your questions as you are working on the assignment. Just drop the questions. We'll respond to it on the group, and that's it. So that will be all for today and this week. That will be all for today and this week. We have been able to really dive into some other advanced CSS concept, and I believe with some practice, we will flow with it and then get it more properly. Get it more properly. So that's all, man.
Okay, awesome session, Favor. You are the best. Thank you, Dorcas. Is Dorcas still there? I mean, I don't know how you're feeling, everyone. I think you over-delivered. Now we can go off and create amazing platforms. I've seen what Ibironke has done. I think it's amazing. And I would like to probably do a shout out for you when you're ready. I know Jessica has been busy doing some design as well. So if you want us to share your projects, okay, Rita says she can write a testimonial. Thank you, Rita. So we're looking for people that want to share their story and share their testimonial. So if you can send me a one-to-one message on Telegram so we can take it forward. Thank you, Horispec Irabo. Sorry, what's your name? I like the energy and the vibe in the group chat as well. It's brilliant. Keep it up. Well done, well done, well done. Oh, did you, Jessica, you didn't tag me though. Did you tag me? I probably didn't say it.
I tagged the female techpreneur
Oh, I must have missed that. I didn't say thank
and
you for
Favor and Roka.
that. Okay, I'll try and find it. I must have missed that. Okay, so if you want to share any like personal testimonial, whatnot, just send me a DM. Oh, peace. Okay, okay, okay. Send me a one-to-one on Telegram and we can arrange, you know, what that means or what that looks like. And if you want us to do a shout out on our page for your work as well, I mean, if you want people to know about what you're doing, we're happy to put a post out and say, look at what Ibronka has done. She's great. Do you need a front-end developer? She's here to help you build your platform. I know you're still learning, but you know, it's really good. It's really, really good. So thank you, Favor. You're amazing. Thank you, Dorcas. I can't thank you enough for the support that you're giving, and you didn't hold back at all. You were just sharing everything that you have. I pray that God will reward you, and thank you for supporting this initiative. And
You're welcome.
you know, without you guys, Female Tech cannot really, you know, this program would not be the same. So I really appreciate. And most importantly, thank you to the delegates. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for hanging in there. It's not easy, right? It's like, oh my God, but you're still progressing and you're trying. And Rita and everyone, I see you and I really commend you. Keep up the good work. And you're just great. You're just great. And if you need anything, if you want to have a chat, let me know. Yeah, this is what we're about. So I can point you in the right direction. If anyone is interested in internship or, you know, anything at all, just reach out, let me know. If any opportunity comes up, we'll send it your way. So don't hold back at all. It doesn't end with the training. We can still see if we can offer more support in terms of the female tech community in itself. And all the best. Oh, thank you for the platform. Thank you, Vironke. All right, bye everyone. I'm gonna sign up now. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and don't worry about this too much. We'll send you the replay. Okay. Bye now. I've got to let the data guys
Bye.
in. Cheers. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you, everyone.